Hi, it's Samantha with Lux Body Works, and today I thought that we would talk about tallow. Tallow, which is rendered beef or sheep fat. I wrote an article about this about a year ago, and it's posted on my blog if you'd like to go read about it because I go into some fair details there. But I wanted to do a video because tallow has become more of a popular product for skincare, particularly in the face. And the reason for that is because of a TikTok influencer that started using it, saying how wonderful it is for her face. And so all of her followers are like, oh, we got to try this too. And then it sort of just multiplied, right? How things happen. But what my goal today is to educate you on, what tallow is and go through kind of how it's processed and where it's mostly used. So beef fat, right, in order to become tallow, it has to be rendered. And so what happens is when the cow is slaughtered and the beef and the meat are sort of separated from each other, that fat gets sent to someplace different than the actual slaughtering place or the meat packing place, because it requires different equipment, and so it has to go to a separate place. And so they ship it off, and they ship it off in not cooled trucks, right? So usually by the time it arrives to what rendering plant, it hasn't been at optimal temperatures. Okay, so what is rendering? Rendering is when you take that beef fat and you cook it down until it's a nice clear liquid. So after a cow has been slaughtered and the beef and the fat get separated, the fat goes off to a plant rendering place. And what they do is they put it in these big vats and they melt it down. And this way the ligaments, the bone pieces and fragments and tendons and skin and hair, right, can all be easily separated. It's also cooked at a pretty decent temperature, around 130 to 140 degrees. And it's kept there for a long time because then that also helps to kill any bacteria that was accrued during also the slaughtering, but, in transportation over to where it's getting rendered. And then at the end, you get this, nice clear liquid that is primarily used in soap making, candles. It's used as a lubricant. And then in the last few years, it's been really kind of popular as a skincare product. So what's great about sending beef fat to a rendering plant is beef fat is a biohazard. So it offsets the cost, right, of having to properly dispose it because it is a biohazard. So let's talk about the profile of tallow. So tallow is high in vitamin A, D, and K. And if it's a grass-fed cow, right, one that gets to feed on the open range, it's going to be high in vitamin E and also omega-3 fatty acids. But your traditional, corn-fed type of cattle do not have a high vitamin E or omega-3 profile. Now, when the fat goes through this rendering process, and it has to be cooked, for long periods of time, the vitamins in the fat, they start to degrade about 120 degrees. So if fat has to be cooked for 130 to 140 degrees for a long period, we're talking several hours, then those vitamins are pretty much destroyed by the end product, right? By the end of all of that. And all fats, whether it's animal fat or whether it's plant-based fats, they all have a fatty acid profile. So they're going to have fats like oleic acid, palmitic acid, stearic acid, linoleic acid, and that makeup or percentage of each is what gives the desirable effects in skincare or soap, right? At least as far as you're putting it on your skin or using it on your skin. And it turns out that oleic acid is really not good for skin. It's comedogenic which means it clogs pores, so it can worsen people who have acne or mild acne or severe acne. It can just worsen acne conditions. It also will disrupt your skin's natural barrier that helps protect the skin and help retain moisture in the skin. So it can disrupt that. And when that happens, right, now you've just exposed your skin to, greater or worse potential. Unfortunately, there's just no research correlating tallow with healthier skin. It's also not an approved product by the Food and Drug Administration. You may not know this, but the FDA actually regulates the cosmetic industry in that it sort of has an approved list of what ingredients can go into skincare products. And it's also important to note that the rendering process is completely unregulated. So that means that the quality is going to significantly vary from one tallow product to another tallow product because it is unregulated. So the quality of the fat as well as the meat is 100% dependent on the nutrition profile of the cow. I mean, that's true for humans, it's true for animals. And something else that I want you to think about is 80% of the antibiotics that are sold in the U.S. Are used in livestock production. Antibiotics help reduce disease in overcrowded conditions. The other thing to consider is the hormones that are injected into cows or fed to cows for, to build heftier flanks, because heftier flanks produce more dollars at the market. What's important to note about this and why we care is because these are fat-soluble elements. So what that means, if they're fat-soluble, is where are they stored? In the fat. So even when you go through the rendering process, because these hormones and these antibiotics are often the same molecular size as the fatty acid profile of the tallow, right? They don't get lost in the rendering. They are right there with the end clear liquid that you get at the end. And that's just the reality of it. So not only does your end product not have hardly any vitamins anymore, but it's also got, hormones and antibiotics in it. More and more consumers are moving toward cruelty-free products, which tallow doesn't fit into that at all. And they're also moving towards more vegan and plant-based products. And so, just so that you have the knowledge, there's a whole host of plant-based products that have, frankly, better fatty acid profiles than tallow. Tallow is really high in oleic acid. And so oleic acid is actually can disrupt the skin barrier. So it's not really good for your skin. And if you talk to a dermatologist, they're going to tell you, they're going to steer you more towards a fatty acid profile that's higher in linoleic acid. Linoleic acid is very good for the skin, and it's not comedogenic, and it's also helps support the skin's barrier. Just to give you an example, tallow is about 2 to 5% linoleic acid and 55 to 65% oleic acid. And so you really want a fat that has the reverse profile of something like that. So just to give an example of some plant-based oils that are high in linoleic acid, they would be grapeseed oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, rosehip oil, sea buckthorn berry oil, evening primrose oil, hemp seed oil. These are all good oils that have a significantly higher linoleic acid profile than tallow, which is around 2 to 5%. Plant-based products are cold processed or expeller processed, right? So they don't use any heat. So all the goodness that's in the plant is retained in the oils. And so when you're using a plant-based product, right, you get all of that goodness from the plant that you're putting on your skin. My goal for you today was to teach you and educate you just about tallow so that you're aware of, because I'm so surprised how many people that don't know what tallow is. If you go look at any soap product in the stores, right, turn the box around and look at the ingredient list, you're going to see tallow-8. Tallow-8 is the salt that you get from the fatty acid and lye process of making soap. It's a soap salt. And, Dove, Irish Spring, all of these popular soaps all have got tallow-8. And let's face it, tallow is cheap and plentiful. And that's one of the reasons, or one of the big benefits in using it. And whether you're a small soap and skincare manufacturer or whether you're a large one. So I just wanted to educate you and inform you, because that's always my goal, is to make you a better consumer. And the only way to do that is you've got to, read and look at stuff and just really understand the process. There's a lot of misinformation out there about tallow because quite frankly, a lot of people just don't know. But I wanted you to be informed, and that's always important to me. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and I hope you go out and make it a beautiful day.